back to Meet the Experts. We are on a journey, and today we are going to meet this lovely, lovely nurse. She was the CEO. She is the CEO, entrepreneur. I can't keep up with her. She's doing amazing, amazing things. But I think you're going to really like this story because she went through personal in leadership, went through bullying. She's been through where she started her own company, did her own thing. So just really amazing person of resilience. Her name is Maggie Veloski, and I'm gonna not talk too much. I'm gonna just let her in. Hi, Maggie.
Casey, I'm so excited to be here. I was so bummed when we had to cancel the first time, but I needed some soul care and some time with my husband. And you, knowing how important that is, gave me the
Yes.
grace. So thank you for rescheduling.
Absolutely. And we are so happy to have you on today because, like I was telling the audience, you've been through a lot. You have the perspective from leadership, but you also have the perspective of, I'm a nurse and I face bullying and I want the system to be better for other nurses out there. And then you come in with your entrepreneurial vibe. I just love what you're doing. You literally created your own space. So we're going to hear all about this. But I have some questions I wanted to ask you, just rapid fire questions to
Sure.
bring out who you are. You ready?
Fire away.
Okay. So, Mac, if you could share one piece of advice with your younger self, what would it be and why?
This one, when you sent it to me, I was like, oh gosh, that's a loaded question. And I even fired some of your questions off to some colleagues while I was on an assignment. And everybody was like, oh, those are good. So way to go, Casey. I think it's almost like a two-part question or two-part answer. I think the first thing is don't be afraid to ask for help and to admit that you don't know everything. Early in my career, I felt like I needed to know the answer. I needed to be autonomous, and nursing is a team sport, and we have to remember that.
Yeah.
And being willing to speak up and ask for help, ask the clarifying questions, and admit when you caught yourself making an error or doing something, not no patient harm, but I work as a travel nurse, as a school nurse. And the other day, instead of putting the Ambisol on my glove finger and putting it on the patient's tooth, I put the tube in the kid's mouth. Well, now we have to toss the tube, right? Silly mistake, no harm done, but now that clinic has no Ambisol for toothaches. So the first thing I did was, well, you're not going to believe what I said to my coworker. So, younger me would not have done that and would have been so embarrassed. And now I'm just like, I just did something so ridiculous. I knew better, but it's done. And we laugh and we move on about it.
So Maggie, I think this is amazing because I really know you. I know you. I watched you, and you are just, let me put it like this. When you are the person that knows, you're very powerful. You are the type of person, and as nurses, we have different types of personalities, but you're the type of person that take charge. You're the type of person, you're a natural leader, right? So when you know, and you don't need to ask for help, and people are coming to ask you for help, I think you really see your joy, like you come alive, like it's like Maggie takes control and she is on top of it. And it's, you know, when I look at it and I look at you, I feel like I see you in your element. And so there are nurses who may be looking on and they are this take charge. They have that personality. They say, I like to control everything, but they really have this, somebody needs to give an answer and it's going to be me. So how do you shift that from now you're more mature and you're saying, I have to ask for help? And sometimes that just does not feel good. How do you deal with that? How do you cope with that?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. And for those who feel like, and yeah, I'm type A. Early in my career, I was a neonatal intensive care nurse. So for like 10 years, I graduated from nursing school and I went into the NICU. And, I have my nuances, right? I like my lines all in a straight, all those IV lines better be in the same pattern. And the EKG and the monitor cords had to come out a certain way and up the crib and over, So yeah, I have my control tendencies, and I am not afraid at this point in my career to admit that. But I also have learned that nursing, most of healthcare, is not black and white. We operate in a gray area. And in order to do that, I can't always have all those lines in a straight line. I can't have all those IV tubing going in the same pattern. Sometimes they might have to stray a little bit, right? Sometimes I might have to be the one asking for help. I think, like you said, I thrive in that leadership area, but it's taken me a long time to get there. I've been in leadership for a while now, and I've received feedback that I feel like I know it all, or that I'm very black and white. And I've taken that feedback and I've taken it to heart. I take advantage of those 365 interviews, of any opportunity to get professional coaching at an executive level, at a nurse level, at a personal and a soul level. And I've had the feedback given to me before and after, when I've taken to heart those comments of, she's very black and white, she feels like she knows it all, and go, oh my gosh, that's not the person I want to be. That's not the persona I want to give out. And I don't know it all. And being forthright with that and saying, I need help. I don't know how. Who can I lean on? Who are my people that I can trust, and that I, trust their opinion, and I know that they know their stuff. But also coming at things that when somebody comes to me with a problem, saying, what do you want from me? Do you want me to fix it? Do you want me to listen and just absorb? Do you want me to escalate? What am I doing with this information so that I give you what you want, and that I know how I'm receiving that? And I think that three-pronged approach has really helped me as a leader. It's helped me to recognize that everybody doesn't always want my opinion. Sometimes they just want somebody to listen to. Or they just want to be heard. And when you take that step back and you say, what do you want me to do with your information? And if they don't want you to fix it, then you've taken that step back from that know-it-all, take control, and that has really helped as I've moved forward.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up, because I believe there might be people listening, and they may be your younger self, really listening in the podcast and soaking up everything you have to say. So I appreciate you. My next question for you was, if you had the power to change or transform one major aspect of healthcare, what would it be, and how do you envision it impacting the system or the people it serves?
This is a loaded question, Casey. This is a loaded one, because I don't want to dip into too many little controversial little buckets. But I actually came up with two that I could not really splice out which one ranked higher. So I'm going to give you two answers, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
One, and they're somewhat related. You'll see in a minute. So the first one is, I think that there's more nursing services before you get to the nurse practitioner level that can be billed for. I think that there are a lot of things that we as nurses provide in treatments, in preventative care, in education and counseling, that should be billable services.
Ooh, this is interesting. I haven't heard this.
Along the same line, I think insurance has too much control over the care that patients receive. A lot of times, not all the times, but a lot of times, the denials are coming from an insurance company, and there is someone who is not clinical, or not clinical in the specialty that the patient needs, who is denying the care. And if you are non-clinical and you don't understand a rare disease, in my opinion, that person should not be denying care for somebody when it could be life-saving. And I say this from a leadership perspective. I ran an international medicine program for pediatrics for nearly 10 years.
Mhm.
And we had insurance companies, both domestic and international, denying care. And I would have to get on the phone as a nurse, not as a director or a leader, but as a nurse, and do a peer-to-peer and evaluation or meeting to try to appeal a denial for a patient who needed to come. And I could get into all the nuances of international insurance, and they can have pre-existing clauses where domestic cannot, and all this stuff. But regardless of what type of insurance it is, I think that within reason, if a physician is saying you need to have this done, then why do we need to get approval? Me as a woman of a certain age, I need to have a mammogram every year.
Yeah.
Because of my body structure, I need to have an ultrasound with that mammogram.
Okay.
Why does my insurance company have the right to say no to that ultrasound? If my doctor has said you meet the criteria and this is preventative. Why does my friend who got diagnosed with breast cancer recently have to go through a ridiculous amount of hoops to get an MRI to confirm exact location and spread? Why are we putting women and patients through this? So I think insurance companies have gained too much power in their ability to dictate or control what type of care our patients are receiving.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, going to your first point of the billable services and the second point, do you think a solution to that could be a middle ground where there are things that nurses, maybe the insurance company is paying for nurses to say, is this okay? We don't think so, but we have a job for a nurse to say, this might be something that we could cover, or this is excessive. That could be a lane that nurses get paid for. Do you think, is that what you're thinking?
I think there's probably something there. I think it would have to be a neutral third party, right? So insurance companies have nurse clinical case managers, and people have said to me, Maggie, you would be great at that. I'm like, I'm not working for the other side. I work on the provider side, not the payer side. That's where my heart lies. I think that from a middleman perspective, there probably is a position for nurses to have a neutral, third party evaluation. But I think that there are already things that nurses are doing that we could be billing for. Lactation consultants, certified lactation consultants can bill for their services. Why can't a nurse autonomously bill for, I don't know, any type of procedure that we're doing? I'm trying to think of something that would be outside of, like a Bayada scope, but something that I, as a nurse who at a bedside, why am I not able to bill for my education hours that I'm spending teaching a patient, if it is tied to a larger form of care? I just think that there's opportunity out there.
I think so too. I don't think there's, I don't think there's a nurse that would disagree with you. Would love to see this model. I would love to see what the audience has to say in the comments. Because sometimes, and this is why I like doing the podcast, sometimes things exist, or there are models of it, but there is no visibility of it. So I would love to hear if it is already existing, and if not, how maybe we can, get this started, up and going. Very intelligent. Thank you for sharing.
And I think there are some CPT codes, and there's some codes that can be leveraged in certain systems. I know Epic, I think, has some coding that's available for billing at certain nursing levels when it comes to telemedicine. But I'm talking at a more holistic level. So yeah, I would love to hear what the audience has to say about that one.
Yeah, I worked in the community, and some patients would self-pay me for the work I did, but I was thinking, what if I could bill their insurance or Medicaid
Right.
or whatever they had, because what I'm teaching is prevention, and it would help, not they won't end up in the hospital. Like, this is so
Right.
important. But yes, I agree with you. I had another question based on your experience. What is one skill or mindset that most people that often prevents people from reaching true success? So, you have led teams, you work with a lot, you work in travel nursing, you work pediatrics, neonatal. So, you are a very successful person, but I'm sure you have seen other people, maybe they started off with you, but they didn't continue or, reach where they wanted to be. What are some, your perspective, what are some things that prevent someone from being successful? And
The
this
fear
is
of the,
just your opinion.
yeah, yeah, no, my opinion, it's the fear of the unknown. And you get comfortable where you are and you think that that's where you need to be. And I think also not having somebody who's willing to ask you those difficult questions and who's really pushing you and guiding you beyond your limits. When I am in a position where I have people reporting to me, I make it a point to meet with each of those people 30 minutes, ideally every month, at most every other month. And that 30-minute time period is intended for that person, for their professional development and their growth. I don't want to hear about your caseload. I don't want to hear about your patient issues. I don't want to hear about work. I want to know, how can I help you? What do you need? How do we make you better? Who do you want to recognize? Who's helped you along the way? And when I started in a leadership level in private practice, and I did this one time, I said, where do you want to go? What do you want to be? Where do you see your career going? And it broke my heart when a couple of nurses said, well, there's nowhere else for me to go. I've maxed. And I said, we're going to talk about this,
Yeah.
because I knew that there was more potential and I wanted to push them. And if they felt like they had maxed in their clinical role, that's different than if they felt like they had maxed in their entire career, because these were women who were young enough to keep going and to keep pushing. So I think that having somebody who can ask you those difficult questions and say, is this what you really want to do? Is this where you want to be? Or do you want to go further? That I think is key, because people need that sort of push and the champion behind them to say, you got to go. But they need to be given the space and the space to know that they can talk about it.
I'm so glad I asked that question. That is so juicy. It's so true. And sometimes they need someone who can see them for what they can be, because they're coming from homes or environments that it's not the most positive and don't see what you can see for them. This is
Yes.
powerful, powerful,
Yeah.
Maggie. So, and now I know you're working on a few things. I know you
A
have a
few.
beautiful, I know you have a beautiful family, you have a business, you're also doing travel nursing. So I wanted to ask you, the current body of work, how what you're doing right now, how does this align with the powerful impact or legacy you wish to leave behind? All the things you're doing.
So my gosh, you say I have a lot of balls in the air. I do. I have so many balls up in the air. I have so many things I'm tapped into right now. And for me, it's where I need to be in my life. I have 3 kids, 8 and under, a husband, a dog who's laying here keeping me company right now. And all the things that come with that personal life, right? And I think that, to me, that is number one. That's my priority. My children are going to be my legacy. I want them to be good and productive humans in society and be, responsible and respectful and contribute. I think professionally, if I've impacted one person to be better at who they are, then I think I've done it. And that could be because I was a mentor or a leader or just compassionate care that I provide. like you said, I run my own business. I do consulting, but then I do local travel nursing. I flow to all of my local school districts, and I'm a school nurse. And then I'm helping to co-author a project, and I speak at conferences, and I have a podcast of my own. So I think, while there may be all these different pockets, I think I could potentially have some influence in each of them, and each of them is going to be very specific to what that moment in my life is and what that pocket is. Because my passions change. Whether people want to admit it, their passions are going to change as their life moves on, as they get more life experience. It's nature. So right now, my focus is raising 3 amazing humans and influencing those who I can, either in the schools or in my consulting, to just, have a better impact on the world. There's enough crazy out there. How can we make it better?
Yes. And when we were educators together, Maggie, I just have to say, I don't think you were meaning to impact me, but you impacted me so much. I just felt so poured into. And it's this space of when you realize you have leadership qualities within you and you do want to make an impact, but then you're also a mom, and you were telling me about your experiences jet setting all over the world. And you said something that really shocked me. And I say, as a mom, like, you were like in different country all the time. How does that impact your kids? And you're like, oh, they were fine. And it really helped me to see, wow, children are resilient. Children
Yes.
are resilient than we think. And you did it. What I came away thinking from you, Maggie, is that in each season of your life, you gave it your best and you have no regrets. And when you were an executive jet setting all over the globe, helping all these sick kids all over the world, you were there and you gave it your best. And now you're like, hey, I want a job down the street where I could be home for my kids and my family and chill with my husband. And you are like so much in this space. And to me, it was like it's okay to be in the season of your life and enjoy it,
Yes.
So,
And I spent so much of my, the better last half of my career so far, the past 10, 12, 15 years, being so profession focused and on that career ladder and on a trajectory. And I got laid off 2 years ago from a company I'd worked for 17 years. And then I started as a CEO of a private practice. And because of culture, it was not a good fit. Mutually agreed, just not a good fit on their end or my end.
Yeah.
So that was a short-lived CEO position. I don't regret any of the aggressive career growth path that I was on, but boy, am I glad that all those things happened, because I feel like I am a happier, more whole person now, even though I may have 10 million projects going on and I may be working till midnight because I was doing this and doing that. As a person, I'm happier and I'm more present with my family, because each one of those balls, I can pick and choose what I want to do. I can pick and choose when I want to be that school nurse. I can pick and choose which client I want to take on. And I can do it on my schedule. So I get to put my kids on the bus. I get to be home for dinner. I take them to sporting activities and whatever it may be. And that is the season of life that I'm in right now. Ask me 10 years from now, I may be doing something totally different. And I'm okay with that, because right now, this is what I need.
I love it. I think it's the height of resiliency, Maggie. I really, really do applaud you for it. It's a good example. Well, I have a few more questions to ask you. And the one I wanted to talk about was, we talked about what you have done, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, you got your MBA as a nurse. And something, I've heard so many nurses say you should get an MBA, right? It's going to help. I wanted to ask you, you used your MBA for both leadership and for entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Which one has served you the most? Or has it been equal? Or do you think you just didn't need it at all? I just wanted to hear your insight.
Well, so let me give you a little bit of background. When
Mhm.
I was just a few years out of college, I had my BSN. I was working up in New York City, and I had a manager who inspired me because she was such a poor manager.
I like that. Yeah.
So I took her lack of knowledge and full understanding of the business of healthcare and the business side and how to operate a large ICU. Um, and I said, there's got to be a better way. And there's a whole other side to healthcare. I'm a nurse. I get it. I get the healing side, but there's a business side to this. There's a financial side to this. So that is what inspired me. And I got my MBA working full-time night shift between New York City and down here in Delaware because I moved in the middle there. So in 2 years, I did it online. Um, and it definitely helped me understand more of the whole landscape of healthcare.
Okay.
And the patient is always at the center, right?
Mhm.
But we can't have healthcare if we don't have an understanding and people who have an understanding of the operations, the logistics, the HR, the financial. There's just so many different components that if one piece of that puzzle comes undone, the patient is no longer at the center because you don't have that holistic team. And I think that is where my MBA came in. I have a concentration on healthcare administration, so targeted. And it was because of that that I was able to be successful in leadership roles in healthcare. My little niche is that I build subspecialty programs. So I've launched programs from nothing in healthcare to serve specific populations. I've also come into existing programs, subspecialty programs, and been able to dissect them and rebuild them from the ground up with full 3, 4, 5 year strategies, financial performance, marketing plans, website redevelopment, because I get the clinical, being a nurse, I can talk to the physicians, but with an MBA and my business acumen, I can also turn around and then translate that clinical to the C-suite who may not have the clinical expertise. And then just leveraging all of that in entrepreneurship, knowing that, in order to have a good business and an operating business, I need to have a good business plan and, again, a marketing strategy and be able to outreach and talk to people and all the things that come with it. So I don't think that it has benefited one more than the other.
Okay.
I think that everything, like in life, it's experiential. It's built upon itself, and I've just learned from each area, and I've just grown with it.
Oh my gosh, Maggie, thank you so much for sharing. I love hearing your insights. I love hearing how your experience really molded and adapted you to be the person that you are today. And you're just a lovable person. And I know we're working on some projects together, which I can't wait to talk about. I know you'll have to share. Um, I think my last reflection, because sometimes we don't I don't think I've ever really heard about anybody in leadership talk about bullying. Like usually in nursing, the bullying is usually coming from someone who has, quote unquote, more power to no power. But
Right.
someone who there is bullying on all different levels. If
Mhm.
you're listening to, we're not going to get into the deeps of it, but if we're just, you're talking to some new nurses and they're listening, what would you say to help them prevent themselves from being in a situation of being bullied?
For years, for generations, nurses have accepted the phrase nurses eat their young. And if you're a nurse at any level in your career, you are still a nursing student, you are a novice, you are an experienced nurse, wherever you fall, that should no longer be accepted. And we need to change that culture. Um, if you feel like you're being bullied, even in nursing school, there should be no reason why an instructor tells someone that because they don't have the emotional aptitude to be a critical care nurse, because there may be something else going on in that nursing student's life that that instructor doesn't know about, which is giving them some emotional instability. I think that all nurses need to have a safe place where they can, a safe person being their place where they can express their emotions, they can say how they're feeling, and they can basically use that person as a litmus test. Was this bullying, or was this somebody having a bad 10 seconds in their day? Someone, a doctor saying, hey, you're just not good at your job, is different than somebody who's repeatedly putting their opinion and telling you how you need to do your job. That doctor who says you're not good at your job and turns to walk away, that's on him. He's probably having a bad day. Move on and forget about it. But the bullying is a repeated pattern of behavior over and over that makes you feel insignificant, inept. It has the potential to damage patient care because unhappy nurses are statistically shown to make more patient errors. There's breakdowns in communication, and therefore patient satisfaction is down. And if you tell any hospital leader that bullying is going to decrease patient satisfaction, you better bet their ears are going to perk up. So I think we need to stop having that mantra of nurses eat their own as acceptable, and it needs to be nurses support each other to be the best that we can be. But it goes across the board. There should be no reason why anyone in healthcare, from the environmental services person to the cafeteria worker, the neurosurgeon, the cardiothoracic surgeon, or the nurse, should feel bullied by anyone else in that chain of command. It just, I want to say there should be a zero tolerance, but in healthcare, how do you have a zero tolerance? Because that means you're going to fire anybody, and we need people to work. So I don't think zero tolerance policies work, but I do think that we need to start to recognize what is just somebody having a bad day versus what is really bullying. And I think we need to start to talk about it and not just internalize it, and start to address it for what it is when it's happening, but when you feel comfortable to do it. If you are in the heat of the moment and you're going, oh my gosh, that person's a real bully, they're bullying me, blah, 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 you're probably a little too fired up. Let's take a step back. The next time you see that person, bring a friend with you and say, hey, we were talking this through and we've noticed some patterns. And is there a way we can help you? Is there something going on? They might not even notice what they're doing. Sometimes you just need to run from the situation too, and I'll admit that too.
Such wise advice. It's true.
Sometimes it's just not a good fit, and why stick in something that is just not a good fit? Maybe there's a better unit for you. Maybe there's a different specialty. Like, why stay in a toxic culture?
Yes, no need. Necessary, not necessary. And I think that is such wise advice. And sometimes some people just need the permission to say, hey, this is not a good fit. Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Right. Better for you out there.
Yeah, but if it's affecting your ability to eat, sleep, emotional stability, then you need to take a look and say, okay, and where is the issue here? Is this something that I can get out of? Is this something that I need to move away from? Or is this something I can and have the ability to address head on, and I'm going to have an impact? Because there's different routes you can take. And if you're not going to be able to have an impact, then why keep yourself in that situation? I don't think moving on is condoning the behavior. I think it's self-preservation and setting an example and allowing other people that you can leave. You do not have to stay in a toxic environment.
Love it. Oh, Maggie, I could have you on. We could talk for hours. I love your insights. It comes from not just the textbook, but from lived experience.
Yes.
And there's much to be said about that. So thank you so much for joining. You know, audience, I asked Maggie all of my questions, but I know you have some. So if you have any questions you want to ask Maggie or any comments you would like to give, this is a supportive environment. Maybe you didn't know Maggie and now you do. So feel free, introduce yourself, connect with her on LinkedIn, and definitely subscribe. YouTube, The Spark is Love. We would love to see you. Thank you for being part of this community. We live on LinkedIn. Meet the Experts is a networking. It is a community of networking. So feel free to come say hi. Don't be shy. We are here to support you and to really change our culture, like Maggie said, to support our nurses and not eat each other. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Maggie. And we definitely will see you next time on Meet the Experts.